it is important to take care of your energy right before a clearing, but it's also important to recognize that you need to take care of your energy a day before, sometimes even multiple days before, because coming up to doing a spiritual clearing, many things can happen. Today, I'd like to share with you one of those stories. So this was years ago. I was living in New Hampshire, and it was one of those days where I had multiple clearings scheduled throughout the day. So in the morning, I had gone to a small town to do a clearing, went really well, pretty standard, cleared out the spirit that was, engaging in the household, not in the most positive ways, helped them to cross over and go home. Then I got in my car to head to the next clearing. Now I had to drive through the southern part of Manchester, New Hampshire. I had to go from west to east, and I had to go under Manchester, New Hampshire, and up kind of into one of the more northern cities closer to the border. And as I'm driving along, all of a sudden, there's a bit of a traffic jam. And I start to pay attention to the traffic jam, and I realize that there are police vehicles going, this way and that way, here and there, coming on and off. And I realized obviously they're going somewhere, but I didn't really think anything of it. It wasn't a huge to-do. It wasn't a huge slowdown. It was just enough to say, oh, okay, some vehicles are heading in the direction, and this was obviously the fastest way for them to get there. But just as the traffic started to lighten up and speed up again, I realized there's something in the air, like energetically, I could feel it. And so I checked in with my guide. I said, what's going on? Do I need to take care of myself? Because I've been in situations where things have happened before getting to the clearing, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And he said, yeah, we need you to send energy. So this wasn't a moment that I needed to take care of necessarily my own energetic body on the way to a clearing. This was more, a request of, can you send energy? And I knew, of course, it was sending energy to the situation that the emergency vehicles were heading to. And so I did that. And it's interesting, when I look back on it, it wasn't a big enough to do for me to say, oh, maybe I should do something. It was just, oh, look, there goes an emergency vehicle, and now it's exiting. It was just enough for me to feel the heaviness of it, I guess. Not every situation that you drive by as somebody that does spiritual clearings are you going to be pulled to assist. It's always helpful to assist. If you see one, or if you pass by an accident or anything like that, send a little bit of positive energy. It's just like prayers. It's a beautiful thing to do. We're all connected, right? But this one felt a little bit different. I couldn't see what was happening. It wasn't right in front of me. I had no idea what it could be. So I did as instructed, and I sent, energy. And I thought, okay, so big ball of love, send it to the guides of all of the people involved. They'll know how to use it for the highest good. And my guide said to me, can you send a little bit more for the people that are going there to handle the situation? I was like, absolutely. So again, big ball of light, send the energy to all the people that are headed there to take care of the situation. So I'm driving along a little bit more, and my phone rings, and I pick up the phone safely because I'm driving. And it's the owner of the home that I'm heading to. And he said, we might need to reschedule. Now, mind you, this home was, I'm going to guess, about 20 to 30 minutes away from Manchester. And so I'm still on my way. I've passed through this town. I've sent the energy. I've sent the energy again to the people that were going to be called to that place. And then I kept going. Another 10, 15 minutes on the road, I get this phone call. It's the homeowner saying, we might need to reschedule. And I said, what's going on? Because see, I'm going to get into this a little bit more, but it's very common for people who need a clearing to end up rescheduling for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to get into that. But first, I asked, what's going on? And he said, well, my partner works in emergency services and just got called to a job. And I said, is everything okay? He said, I'm not quite sure. They're heading to Manchester. There was actually a hostage situation going on in Manchester. Now, it's not that bad of a town. This was a really rare situation. It's not something that happens quite often in Manchester, New Hampshire. But I was really stunned, because that's when 1 + 1 was 2. I realized, wow, the person living in the home that I was heading to clear ended up getting called to Manchester for this emergency situation and was en route that way. And as I passed Manchester, I was asked to send supportive and loving energy to the guides of the people that were going to be going there. It all made sense. It all made sense. Couple things here. Number one, yes, it was absolutely wonderful to send prayers to everyone going there, handling this situation. If I remember correctly, there was a child involved, which is very scary. So as much support as anybody can give them is a wonderful thing. But the other thing too was somehow by doing that before even getting to the home, I was able to connect energetically with both people in the home, even though one had to leave and go on site to do their amazing work. I said, you know what? It's okay. I can't explain this to you right now, but I'm still connected to your partner. So we're all still connected energetically. I'm going to head to you and do the clearing. And that's exactly what I did. I got to the home and I explained I was passing by Manchester. This is what happened. They asked me to send energy to the people that were going to the site, which happens to be your partner. So I'm already energetically connected to them. I'm now here energetically connected to this home. Let's go ahead and do this clearing. So it was a really unique situation, one that I hadn't run across before, but I thought it was really, wonderful. And I could hope, this is the human part of me, I could hope that that person then was able to release, the person that went on site was able to release all the concerns about the day and everything else, and be able to focus in on their job and take care of that child in that hostage situation. But it was really, well, there's no other way to put it. It was really different. And it was a neat experience because when I got into the clearing and I started to connect with the spirits that were there, that were stuck on the property, I realized I did need to acknowledge the energy of both of the people that lived there because they were kind of linked into it as well. And I was able to do that because of the sending of energy to that person as they were headed west and I was headed east. So we're probably passing each other on the freeway as it happened. It was really neat, but it was one of those moments that I thought this is going to be a great one to share because many things can happen before a clearing that are connected to the clearing, but you might not be aware of it. So if you're going to do a clearing, for example, of something very negative, of something that is troublesome, people are being, woken up at night or, scared, things like this as a result of some of the negative things that the spirit's doing, you have to understand that not always does this spirit want to go home. So once the spirit's aware that you are heading in that direction to, in essence, cross them over, if that spirit's intent is to not cross over, perhaps it's because they're terrified of what will happen when they do. Perhaps their fear has gotten the best of them and they're anchoring into this agreed upon reality because they're scared if they cross over, they're going to go to hell or they're going to, be punished or whatever that could be. When you have a spirit such as that, and they realize, because this is all energy now, they're not in a physical body. They have energetic awareness that, a regular human might not have 24 hours before something happens. But when they realize that that's part of the deal of what's going to happen that day, they can do things to try to stop you. Flat tires, phone disconnect, if you're doing it remotely, phone disconnects, internet not working, things like this. If you're doing this work, I just don't want you to be surprised. And I'm even laughing a little bit because I know there are some people that do this work that listen to this and they're probably nodding their heads. Yep, I've been in that situation before where it was like, I'm moving water to try to get to this place and everything got in my way. So please know that as important as it is to take care of your energetic body going into a clearing, right before you go in, you do GCP, you always do GCP. It's also important to just stay aware before the clearing, 24 hours before the clearing, on the way to the clearing, 72 hours before the clearing as well. It's important to stay aware because you're not dealing with the physical, you're dealing with spiritual, you're dealing with energy. There is more awareness there than your typical person. You're not throwing a surprise party for a 12-year-old who has no clue that you're coming. You know, you're going to do an energetic clearing of a spirit that has awareness and is not limited by a physical body. If they become aware that you're going to do that, and that is the last thing they want, they're going to do everything in their power to stop you from doing that. Or you'll run into a situation like I did, where there's some sort of an energetic connection that you need to be connected to. I would highly encourage you, don't ask too many questions, don't dive into it too much. Know that it will unfold and you'll understand exactly what it's doing and why it's doing that. But just stay aware that things can be connected. If the synchronicities amp up, where it's one after another, after another, after another, then you know that the spiritual clearing energy, the energy of the act of doing the spiritual clearing is coming in before you even get there. So lots of different situations can come up for you when you do this work. You can need to, or be requested to connect different energies that sometimes don't make sense at first, but they might make sense eventually. You might run into a situation in a clearing that the spirit absolutely does not want to be cleared. And if they can find a way to stop this situation from happening, they're going to try. Thus, GCP doesn't hurt to GCP your car. If you're doing it remotely, GCP your computer, you know what I mean? And just take that extra step. And lastly, when I do a clearing and I can't get there on time, I tell the homeowners, well, not on time, but like that day, if I can't get there, if I need to do it the next day or the day after, I always tell the homeowners, I'm going to go ahead and do an initial sweep of the home. And I'm going to set it up for the highest good between right now and the time that I can get there, which means if you stop feeling the effects of the negative things that are happening, don't call up and cancel. Because I had that happen a lot in the beginning. I would get the call. I'd say, okay, I can't get there for 2 days, and I wouldn't say anything more than that, but I would book it and I would show up 2 days later. But a lot of times they'd call right before and they'd say, you know what? I don't know. I just feel like I don't really need you to come out anymore. Like everything that was happening isn't happening anymore. And I would have to explain to them, well, in essence, I sent energy to your home for the highest good over this next 48 hours until I could get there. So I do tell people, if I can't do it immediately, just note that I am still going to set up the energy in such a way to have the best possible outcomes between now and the time I get there. So if things get a little bit easier, don't be surprised. Doesn't mean you need to cancel. It means when I get there, I will get to the root of everything happening and make sure all T's are crossed, all I's are dotted, and we're all okay. So this is one of those sessions where I want you to recognize, as somebody that does the work or somebody that needs the work or somebody that's just interested in it, that just because you schedule something on a particular day doesn't mean that energetic things around that situation aren't going to happen leading up to it. And to be aware and to be kind of on call with the situation and work with the energy the way it calls you, because it's always different. I know you've heard me say this, but it's always different. And watch out for those spirits that really, really don't want to be crossed. This wasn't the case in this situation that I was in. It was relatively easy. This was more an example of how energy can be connected before you ever get there. But be aware of those spirits that don't want to cross over, because if they can find a way to push you away or keep you away, they're absolutely going to do that. But here's the deal. They don't get to make that decision. Okay. They're in a state of fear. They're in a state of panic. They're in a psychological place where they can't think clearly. They don't understand what's going on. What they're looking at is not the reality of what's happening for them. And out of that fear, they're kind of pushing back on you. And in that situation, you need to create a safe place for that spirit, step forward, do what it takes, work with your guides if you can, to help that spirit cross over, even if they're fighting you on it, because they're someone's child. Do you know what I mean? They're part of someone's soul group, and they don't need to be in that tormented mental state in the in-between stock. Because like I always say, ghosts are people too.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Crossing Over community, a loving and safe community of individuals who are shining light on the beautiful process of the death transition. Members of this community are amazing people just like yourself. Join the discussion, access more in-depth trainings, and be a part of this growing movement by joining the Crossing Over community today.